Good evening, good peoples. This is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. It is Monday evening after an interesting day. All the market days seemingly are interested till they're not. All right, so Rex shares. I've got all my comparison data updated. I'll get into that in a few minutes. Um, I wanted to start with saying that I opened a Patreon. One of the things that I'm doing there is I'm educating at all levels on investing. I'm talking about when you enter a trade or enter a position to have an exit plan. What are the ways to assess income funds? What are the ways to look at metals and miners, which are a whole different entity, right? A lot of you know that I have a lot of knowledge there. So just launching that. I did a metals video. I put the Patreon in. I've got some 15 to 20 members already, and I'm looking to grow it. There's 3 membership levels. It starts as low as $5 a month for membership. You can cancel at any time. The higher end one has a 45-minute phone call, one-on-one, should anybody want that. So I'm prepared to discuss income funds, the high yield income funds, my assessments, recommendations, what I own, and then obviously on the metals. A lot of people are going there for interest in the metals. What do I own? What do I recommend? How do I assess companies? I have a database with almost 800 names. I constantly scan that for opportunities. So now let's jump into REX. So REX shares. They just declared MSII. There are 4 weekly paying high yield funds. They declared a distribution of 34 cents. It's a 72.55 yield on cost at the closing price. And listen, before I finish these, I wish these guys came out earlier. They don't. They wait till the market closes and then they distribute their thing. So you're talking already where you can't buy them and get the dividend. So 812, as soon as the market's open on Tuesday, your ex-dividend. I forget the payout. Let me check that. The pay date is 813. So these guys, what they do, right? They come out and they announce Monday after the close. They you really can't buy it. So they're not doing what Max and Roundhill and Defiance are doing, where you have an opportunity to jump in and buy it based on what they're paying you. I mean, I'll say this: you could buy it in the after hours. My experience is mixed. I never recommend anyone buy in the after hours, um, because theoretically they don't have to. They can consider that trading sans the dividend. In other words, not with the dividend. Clearly in the pre-market on the morning of the 12th, right? So take your chances. I would call my broker and ask him. Anybody that's had experience where they've actually gotten it again, I haven't tried in a long time. But and why would I take that risk when I know during the day and the regular hours it's not a problem? So before somebody says, "Oh, Bruce, I buy," but tell me in comments if you're buying it in the after hours and you got the dividend then on 8. In this case, it would be on 813. So declaration on the 11th, but they don't tell us until the markets close for regular trading hours. Ex-dividend is 812, and then Wednesday the 13th would be the pay date. All right. So this is my Patreon. If anybody is interested, www.patreon.com/TWC100. I don't think the caps matter. And then you see the membership options. All right, guys. So let's go over. I made sure to update everything here today. And in complete fairness and giving full disclosure, I said, hey, you know what? On Wednesday, we're going to have the answer to how much NVIDIA is paying. So I don't think it's fair to not give them something. Now, I think my prediction was 118. I don't remember exactly. You can go look at it, watch that video. I'll show actuals on Wednesday. But in order here, I just said I'm going to give them a dollar. Maybe they only pay 90 or 95, but I'm going to add a dollar in. So with my comparisons, because I hate not allowing a monthly to get something, right? When they're so close, where these weeklies just, every week they're adding to their, and it's not a fair comparison that way. All right. So the only thing I want to show here sometimes is, I try and give you the ex dividend date, but how are they performing? Well, I don't see any big moves up. This one was really in the last week, but we can look at it for a second. 362. Now, do we have anybody? Yeah, Round Hill that was their declaration date. Um, so I don't see anything in comparing here that really stands out. Well, we had a down day, 0.035, but again, these guys are declaring. Um, but everybody kind of looks in line. I really don't see anything standing out. Sometimes it does. But so let's move to Tesla. And I made sure to update these. A lot of data, right? So going across, what did Tesla do on the 11th? Well, and so the big one here, sorry, I was about to say what they did today, but the last big move in the underlying was 362. So how did TSYY, which tends to have a little more NAV erosion, but pays very well. But this is their long-term fund. If you're in their COYY or NVII, those are doing pretty good, and they're much, much newer. This is their long-term, what they call yield boost, right? The high yield, and they converted June 1 to pay weekly. All right, they were the TSYY and a lot of their index funds were paying their it's not YBTC, but whatever they're in, XBTY, their Bitcoin fund. It's a good one. They're now weekly. All right, so a dollar. Let's see, 362. They went up half. Okay. So what did TSLP? Well, that was their ex-dividend. That's the curve fund. So the only comparison in these four is on the Tesla fund. Um, They tend to be a steady NAV with a low payer, and they're also monthly. Um, so half, oh no, 0.26 again. You have to throw that out because it's their ex-dividend for their 45-cent payment. Okay. What did Tesla do in comparison? Well, it went 234. So 60%, that's about what you expect, two-thirds. 66 if you want to be a little more precise. Um, and what did TSII? Well, with some leverage, they got 3.79, so they beat the underlying. So that's what I look for. I try to see if they're living up to what the expectation is. Here's something where nobody had any ex-dividends, although this one may be because they're paying soon. So not always fair. You got a 285. You got TSYY paying 215. You got Curve paying 251. That's excellent. You have TSLW paying 174. Again, that appears to be their ex-dividend date. Both of these guys ex-dividend dates. 269 over here for TSII. Well, that wouldn't be their ex-dividend. Tomorrow, the 12th, would be their ex-dividend. So I take it back. That's not accurate. This is likely why TSLW was down. This is clearly their ex-dividend. They pay tomorrow on their funds. All right, guys. So the good stuff is when I get into the comparisons. Here's your MicroStrategy players, MST, MSII, IMST, MSTY, and then MSTW. I should show over here, but I do show them in the comparison. but they will get added in their column. They've now declared, so they've now got two payments, um, with the second one being paid tomorrow. So they're moving along. They're performing well. I'll show you in the comparison. Do I see anything here? Oh, this must be something jammed up on my data here. There shouldn't be a, well, maybe there was a 22 and 19% move. Let me check that, guys. Test MSTR. 400.25. 395, 402.01, 383. Oh, that's a 375. That'll do it every time. Typo. 375 and then 389. Yep, I'm back on track, guys. It happens. All right. So with Misty, we know they pay every 28 days or what I call a month. But I mean, technically, it's every 28 days because it gives us 13 times. So you guys always say, "Oh, I'm getting paid twice this month." Yeah, you are. But guess what? Everybody gets paid every 28 days if you own Misty. It just coincidentally happens. But when I hear, two times in the month, and if I didn't know better and know all the detail like I do, I'd say, "Oh man, that's a bi-monthly payer." I love that twice a month. That's not as good as once a week, but that's pretty good. So every one of the funds has a month. There's four different groups. So the groups dictate, right, which months are the double months. But again, it's like I get paid on May 2nd and then I get paid on May 30th. How long did I wait? 28 days. When will the next payment be? 28 days. When will the next payment be? 28 days, right? So don't get too excited, guys, when some of you newer people hear that, "Oh, twice a month. I better buy, then I can get paid twice a month." Well, you're going to get paid every 28 days. All right, Bruce. Move on. Is there anything here to look at? Let's look at this 485 update. Okay. Doesn't appear that we have anybody that is involved. This is a monthly payer. This is a monthly payer. This is a weekly payer. This is a weekly payer. So it doesn't appear that we have any ex dividends. How did they do? Misty paid, guess what? 2/3. Probably not quite 2/3 in the 60 percenter. I say paid, performed, right? The underlying moved up 485, they moved up 320. How did IMST do? Well, they moved up 402. They tout, only writing half the calls or using leverage when they deem it appropriate. So, Jeff Park is the guy out there running that who's somewhat renowned. So they didn't perform as good as the underlying, but they beat, well, look at this. Look at MST. They used double leverage. Well, they didn't quite get double. Looks more like a 150 on this one. How did MSII do? Well, Rex, you did very well. You managed a 602. So let's see how it all translates. Actually, MSII and is performing very well. So we'll take a look at it. IMST, because they've had some of those big payouts, right? Look at IMST. They paid the 701, then they dropped to reality at buck 86, then they went to 291. Well, they're not cheap. People, I never try to say, well, Misty's only paying $1 because Misty's what, $18, 17, 19, depends on which day you're looking recent. But in that 20-ish ballpark. Um, but we'll see if that can get sustained. All right, guys, we'll get to the comparison. Coin has sort of gone way down as I expected. When you roar up like Coin did, you're going to fall down. I mean, look at this 419, 413, right? And it's come back down. Maybe it's bottomed here at 297 and we're bouncing back. I'm unclear on the markets. Again, I'm leaning toward maybe not, that we're toppy now. But if we break out to new highs on all the indexes and keep moving, then maybe we've got more upside. I stopped trying to predict the topsy-turvy nature of that and just try to look at my cycle stuff. That what sectors are going to perform. And then within the sector, I do a lot of due diligence to see who's moving up. And clearly, it's like the miners were down yesterday. Big deal. It's just a better opportunity to buy, just like you guys and the income funds and all of us. When they sell off, buy, right? If you're bullish, buy when they sell off. Okay. So Koi is the new entry, guys. I'm including it. Came out with an outstanding 84 cents, right, on a $20 fund, and weekly, now mind you, came back with 72 cents. My concern always with yield boosts in them is keep an eye on the NAV. We'll talk about that when we compare. Because, if you can pay me 120% and your NAV's 35, you know, then you're still talking about an 85% total return. So I can live with that, right? It's just when that changes. And all of these, and then people say to me, Bruce, you seem to trade these, or you leave Pulte and you go to PLTW because Pulte's waiting a month and disappointing. I think they'll finally pay, FYI, guys. I don't have a Palantir because Rex is not here on that. But I wouldn't be surprised that everybody starts coming out with more of those because it's just a phenomenal underlying stock. Phenomenal, guys. All right. So let's get to the comparison. This is where the rubber meets the road, as you guys well know. Okay. So people have asked me, I come up here and I show you, like, you won't see a fund in here that's brand new, but there's enough in here. So I've got three funds that I can set as 219 because they've been around long enough. They've been around a lot longer, but what good does it do? And then we have NVII, which is what we're talking about, Rex, that came out on 528. We had Granite shares come out with their NVIDIA fund on 513. And so you do a comparison up here, but it's not fair, right? How do you know if NVDW maybe is better than NVII, but it went through a bearish portion? So that's why I move everybody down here and I shoot for a common date. Well, NVII is doing very well. It started on 528. So I say, okay, well, I can include everybody in if I go to 528. So that's what we did. So let's look at those numbers. Everybody's been out 76 days. And who stands out? Well, Roundhill at 252. Okay. 227 for NVIDIA. Not bad. Okay. NVYY 149. So that's a good return, but it's not performing with the other guys here. So look at NVII 315. So what is contributing to that? Well, the gain or loss, because they're not outpaying anybody. They're very conservative. Who's the big payer? Well, big payer, NVIDIA and Granite, the two NAV kings, right? NAV loss kings are the two ones that I would worry about NAV loss. But again, if you're in a bull market and you're running, you're going to have less of that. But how are you capturing, right? So I don't know why. This something's wrong here, guys. NVIDIA, well, take it back. 1529, is that the right number? Just anytime I see something, I do have outliers. I have people that are doing better, so I suspect that is all right. Let's look at NVIDIA on 528. It is 1529. Okay. And it is 1785 today. Okay, so who wins this? NVII, right? Rex. Welcome, Rex. Good job. So they're doing it in an interesting way. Their fund captured, for whatever reason, a big up move. It's gone from 24.98 to 32.92. So when you do that in a short period, but remember, everybody else's fund is in the market that same exact time frame. But let's make sure that something's not off. 32.92 is right. Let's see if 24.98 is right. Yep, that was the launch price. Close price on the first day of trading, 528. So good job, kudos. Now look here, they're all kind of trending. Here's just a 1 week. NVIDIA's up 1.48 in a previous week. The other three are barely down, but they are down. So you pick them. I would say here that I would say that NVII and Roundhill, NVDW, are sort of winning this. Pretty good percent. But again, it's a very short time frame, but it's necessary to accurately compare. If you went up here then and said, okay, how's NVDW and NVDY doing both with the 219? Well, it's still in favor of Roundhill, 52.05 to 40. Now remember, I've given them a dollar. Now, it's not going to change a lot if they pay $1.20. It's going to go to 41. So I don't know what they're going to pay. I had an estimate closer to $1.20, but it's not going to change the outcome. And they haven't even declared it, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because to me that's fair. I knock yield max when I see things they do poorly, but I'm not going to fudge the data to make them look even worse, right? I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt there. And so what's the underlying done? Underlying hasn't, NVIDIA, of course, this is on the 72. So I take it back. On all the three that have 174, it is the king, right? 75% to 52% to 39%. The other guys are playing in a different ball game down here. All right, let's move along now on Tesla. Let's look at all the Tesla funds. Not the most exciting, guys. But again, same kind of scenario. I got everybody there except for Rex, okay? And I've got a curve fund in here. They're not in the other ones because they don't have a fund in the other categories. So who's performing here? Well, this isn't fair. This is looking at 6.4 and everybody else is 219. Let's look at the 219 players. And actually, in that case, the best player in the 219 comparisons is Tesla. But nobody would get excited about it because Tesla, how about dividend annualized? It's beating everybody except TSYY. And you already know TSYY is a big payer. People like that. But look at the NAV loss difference. So you're looking at same time frame. They've lost 90%. Tesla's lost 60%. And Roundhill's funds only lost 58.85. But by outpaying, right, Roundhill is down at minus 19. And Tesla wins at minus 8. It's bad when you win in a minus number, but you're the least. But, the second is curve. All right, what happens when we put everybody in the same place, guys? Who's winning? So Tesla is at 2% gain. Roundhill's at 6. Nice. Look at this. From 6.4 on, those payments just fly up there, but they don't beat Rex. Rex by about 2%. Not about 2% higher. And they had a negative from that time frame, and they didn't pay anywhere what TSY did, but their negative is very small. So I can take a 36 all day if I got 40 over here and 4 over here. Again, small sample size, guys. But the Rex funds are impressive. Them and Roundhill, I'm really impressed with them. Good funds. And Curve never, when they have a fund, I mean, they're clearly third place. They're even beating Roundhill, but they're monthly versus weekly, you know. All right, let's look at the last two. A little more excitement here, guys. Let's look at the MicroStrategy-based funds. So here you're jumbled. You know, you got MISTI and you got MSTR, and then the three competitors, and we have a new competitor, MSTW, so I included them down here. So this really isn't, you know, Misty's not capturing even half. They're capturing about 40 something percent of the up of MicroStrategy. So that's a problem. Always it has been a problem with Yomax funds. They pay a lot, but they capture poorly. Look at this guy. But again, that's in this scenario, all right? Rex is doing well, but they're a 6-4 entry. So we have to go down and compare everybody else on 6-4. And that's what we're going to do. So now let's look at everybody, but it's time to at least throw MSTW in the mix, guys. You can't compare. You can't say they won or lost because it's a different time frame. So what I'd have to do is compare everybody to 724. That just gets to be too much work, guys. There's a lot of manual recalculating. Like I can put all the dividends here, then I have to go down here and then only take a portion of them from 6-4, and then every time they get updated here, I can't use that whole number because it has the full period. I have to individually add. So it's a lot of work, but I think it's worthwhile, guys. I don't know, nobody else is doing it like I'm doing it. Um, and to me, this is what I want to know when I invest with these guys. This is the kind of information. Again, people say to me, Bruce, I know that so-and-so's better over the period of time you analyze them, but you know, the past doesn't predict the future. No, it doesn't, but it tells me how they perform under similar market conditions, right? So the past is the past, but it's an exact past with an exact comparison, right? You're not going to be able to predict the future, but I can say to you, if MicroStrategy goes up 70%, how much is likely MSI going to go up? And I can tell you with some authority. And how much is Misty going to go up? I can tell you with some authority. Okay. And IMST and MSTW. That's what it does. It's very helpful in that. Okay. And I think most of you get it. So, you know, 69 days and 19 days, the guy's a loser because of where it's at. Look at this annualized dividend rate. It's just slightly ahead of a 200%er in MST, right? MST is again, that'd be a great performer in just a massive move up, right? It's leveraged, it's gonna move up, but man, holding it in neutral and down periods, it's brutal. I mean, I bought 100 shares just so I could experience it. I mean, reporting on it at a level, you know, but but this one, so you can't, this is faced with an 81% down. It launched at 50 and it's at 45. Now it is using leverage, but so's MST. So it's only down 54 from 6.4. So if it was around since 6.4, I think it would be one of the better funds. So who is the better fund? Hello, Rex. Good job. So Rex is kicking a little booty, 49. IMST is coming in, the big payer when it can, right? 1867, Misty, 6.7. MST is beating them in total return because they both suck, 51 and 54, but they're outpaying them by 4%. And again, Misty just paid, so I didn't have to go in and worry. NVIDIA is the one that's just pending, right? All right, let's look at COII. This is interesting. I talked about a little bit, massive up spike from April to July. And then it pulled back, which it needs to. It needs rest. I don't know if we get an ABC. I don't know exact pattern of this consolidation. I call it rest and recovery to launch again in the future. But again, if the markets turn down, then they're all going to go down regardless of the rest period or whether you're in an up cycle. So what do we have here? We got 6, 5, a bunch of 5 players and a 6. That's the best I could do to get everybody, right? I can take almost all the players to 5-2, and then Rex didn't start till 6-4. Well, now I have a problem. I have COII paid a big payment jump in. So we'll go over these a little bit, but this explains why everybody's 6-4. And I don't want to ignore COII. Now, it had 2 payments. Look at this. It's trending toward annualized dividend of 164%. Again, can it hold its NAV? I don't know. Looking at it since 729 is not ideal. So you can't really tell. But these 4 we can look at. So what's happened is I had iCOI winning this, but here comes Roundhill, right? So they're neck and neck. So I made them both green. In the 69-day cycle, they're killing everybody. Look at Coney. That's why I got out of Coney. It's why I got out of Misty. And Pulte. Misty less so not paying. Misty's paying because it was almost 40% of all of Max's. They start losing, redemption in that fund. That's a bad sign. They don't want that to happen. Already, Ulti is kind of their king fund as far as everybody moving money, but they're not getting out of Misty. The Fates, I don't blame them in a way. It's just, why wouldn't I want to be in MSTW and why wouldn't I want to get paid weekly? And honestly, I have very little. All the money that I pulled out of Misty, I didn't reallocate to BTC funds right? I put it in other places, but I did buy some MSTW. If I'm going to be in a MicroStrategy right now, that's the one I'm in. So 61.85 for Rex. Excellent. But not as good as iCOI and COIW. And iCOI, I don't like the waiting a month. I really don't on Bitwise. I used to say weeklies aren't a big deal to me, but since I've been in Roundhill and I'm collecting weeklies, I like it. And I've always understood the velocity of money. The flow coming in gives you use of that. Before you get paid on your monthly, and then when I got disappointed in the payments is when I finally I wait a month only to find out they should have paid us $6 or $7 and they paid us $3 in Pulte. And then next month they said, okay, well they're going to fix that. They're going to go back to a $5 payment. Nope, went even lower, 250. Then I was done because the weekly guys are winning and they're winning that week, right? And so they're paying as much as Max is, and they're gaining so much more on the underlying with their 120% leverage. So you pick them, you choose them, you analyze them. I always say, I report, you decide. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to buy, but I can tell you what the numbers show me as who's performing. All right, guys. So that's what we got. Just a recap for anybody that's driving, can't see this. Rex, MSII, their MicroStrategy fund, paid 34 cents at 72.55. Their COI, their COII, paid 58 cents. It's 122% yield. Their NVII fund paid 21 cents. That's 33.90. And their TSII, poor baby, paid 12 cents, and that is a 26.35 yield. All right, guys, That's the data. That's Rex. If you have any interest in my Patreon, go take a look at it. I'm putting some content that I won't be putting on YouTube. And if I do, I'll put it a couple weeks late. Sometimes when breaking things happen or a really hot comparison or I notice something or I have a fund to recommend, I'm going to start doing it over on my Patreon. All right, guys, but I'm still going to report. I'm doing all of this work for you. All right, guys, this is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Bye for now.